Hey guys, welcome. So glad you could join for practice. If you've got your blocks and a blanket, you can have them handy nearby. If not, as always, we can work around that. We're going to go ahead and start lying down on our backs. So you have a couple options here. You can start in what I think of as like a figure eight. So butterfly in your legs, soles of your feet together, knees out wide. And then with your arms up overhead, working towards your fingers coming to touch with your elbows bent. Now, for all of us, that doesn't work in the shoulders, so you might bring hands out a little wider or more like cactus. You could slide some blocks in underneath your thighs. We're not going to be here super long, but sometimes just that extra little support is nice. And if this variation isn't working at all in your legs today, do the opposite. Take your feet wide, let your knees rest together. Right? As always, make the practice work best for you. I'll give some variations and options along the way. Listen to your body, honor what it needs and what it does not need in today's practice. Once you've settled in and found your spot that feels supportive, that feels helpful to settle in, just let your eyes close or your gaze get soft. And these first few moments, really let the back of your body settle down into the mat. Feel the support and the connection. And then just let your breath start to get a little bit fuller. Feel where your breath is moving to. Right? Your lungs, your ribs, your belly, your back. And where does it feel like might need a little bit more breath as you get started? And just see if you can start to shift your full attention to that feeling of your breath. You can just start to settle into this little bit of time that you've carved out for your practice today. Right, this time to move your body to breathe. And for today's practice, we're going to work a little to think about what helps us to create change or transformation within the practice. And sometimes just bringing attention to your breath creates a lot of transformation in the mind, starts to build a little heat within the body. And just take a couple more breaths there. Start to find the place that feels steady and full, but not forced. Right? Knowing that, again, will shift and change as we move and you create more room for breath. Okay, and then as you're ready, you can reach down, help your knees together if they're wide, and then stretch both legs out long on your mat. Reach your arms up overhead, and then scoot both heels over to the right side of your mat. Go ahead and slide your upper body over to the right as well. So you make that crescent moon shape with your body. Right, keep your left shoulder, your left hip down, everything's connected. And then you have a couple options here. You can take a hold of your left wrist with your right hand. You might grab forearms or elbows up overhead, just depending on shoulders and range of motion. And you may even stack left ankle on top of right if that sensation feels okay. You might stay soft through your eyes. And just take a couple fuller breaths out into the right side body. I think so often when we come to our mat, we're looking to make a little shift to create, whether it's a tiny little transformation or a little bit bigger one. And that might be in something physical that's happening in our body, right? We want the muscle tissues to loosen up. We want to create more stability. We're looking to strengthen something. And those can often be reasons that we practice yoga in the first place. Good. Come on back to center and just give yourself a nice full breath, big stretch at center. And then go ahead to the second side. So heels to your left, and then scoot your upper body over to the left as well. Really let the right side of your body anchor down. And then same thing, you might take a hold of your right wrist. You might grab elbows or forearms. And you could stack right ankle on top of left, all just options. A couple breaths into right side body. I think other times we're also looking to transform our mindset, maybe to shift the day that we've had or our levels of stress, right? From irritability to calm. And so just invite you to take a moment to think about, is there anything in particular that brought you to practice today? Are there things in general that you like to try and shift, transform within this container of the practice? Right? And maybe not. Maybe you just love to practice because it feels good. That's great. There's all different layers to why we practice. Good. Come on back to center. Big stretch. And then go ahead, draw your right knee into your chest. And you can take a whole knee or shin, wherever it works well. Flex your feet. And so you start to bring a little bit of muscle energy to your legs. And then just hover your left heel off the mat. So we're going to create a little bit of heat. I'm going to turn the core on a little bit more for stability. Okay, and then go ahead and switch. Draw your left knee and stretch your right leg out. And again, just to hover your right heel. Flex your feet. And feel where your body's starting to work. See if you can draw that muscle energy from your right foot all the way up to your leg. So it feels like you're hugging muscle to bone. Take a full breath in. And then we'll move with breath. So as you exhale, bring your right knee in, stretch your left leg out. And then exhale again. Sorry, we inhale for the stay and then exhale for switch. It's talking in the breath. Inhale, knee in. Exhale, switch. Go slowly with your breath. Take a full breath in. And then switch. Left knee in, right leg out. Inhale. Exhale, switch. Right knee in, left leg long. Let's do one more each side. Next, exhale, switch. Give a little hug of your thigh in towards your belly. And then exhale, switch. Good. This time, go ahead, lower your left heel all the way down to your mat. Bring your right leg across, twist. You can bring your right arm out to the side, T-shape, cactus shape. Keep your left leg active. And roll your outer right hip away. See if you can create some space along your side body. We did that a little on the first one as well. And I think often about heat as a great way to create shift, to create transformation. You can do this with chemical reactions. We can do it in the body. And sometimes we think about heat in the practice as moving really fast, right? That in order to build heat, we just have to move quickly to stimulate that. Okay, inhale, come back to center, bring both knees in. And then stretch your right leg out, keep your left knee in. Take a full breath in. Use your exhale to twist, left knee over to your right, right arm out to the side. Good, keep right leg active. Left shoulder dropping back. And then roll your outer left hip away from your low ribs. Right, we make space for the twist, room for breath. What if, and we'll play with this today in our practice, instead of just having to move fast, right, that spending time in the poses creates the heat. Right? Those of you who practice with me may know that this is kind of the place I'm inclined to be, more so than moving fast. And it's all personal preference. Sometimes a little fast movement's good for us. Sometimes it's the holding in the pose that helps to create the heat, right, and gives us the time to create that shift, that change. With your inhale, come back to center. Bring both knees into your chest. Give things a little squeeze. You can take a rock side to side. And then from here, we're just going to roll forward to a standing forward fold. If your low back's feeling a little cranky, sometimes it's nice just to roll to the side and help yourself up, or you can roll back and forth along your mat a couple times until your feet land and you roll forward. I often like to start with feet hip width apart. For me, it gives hamstrings and hips a little bit more space. You're also welcome to grab a couple blocks if that's helpful here. Okay, legs straight or a little bend in your knees, and then just let your upper body get heavy. Take a moment to really anchor through your feet. Feel that firm connection here. Give a little squeeze of your inner thighs towards center. Yeah, and then just let the head get heavy. Take a breath or two. The weight of the head just creates that traction on the spine. Right, so we'll do a little movement with breath. Sometimes it's nice to get the rhythm started. And then also invite ourselves into some longer holds today to see where we can bring in some shifts, some transformation. Good. Bring your hands to your hips, press down into your feet. With your inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Take a full breath. From that root of your feet, stand tall, but let your shoulders soften. Keep your gaze steady, but soft. With your next inhale, reach both arms up. And with your exhale, hinge at your hips, fold forward, come all the way down. Right, a little bit of movement with breath, set the rhythm, set the cadence. Inhale, lift and lengthen halfway. Hands to shins or mat or even thighs. Exhale, fold back in. Inhale, come all the way up. Big circle around with your arms, reach up. Exhale, hands together at your heart. Let's do a couple like that. Reach up, inhale. Fold forward, exhale. Lift halfway, lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, hands together at your heart. Okay, reach up, inhale. Fold forward, exhale. Full breath in, lift and lengthen your spine. This time, bring your left hand to the center of your mat. Here's a great place for a block if you want a little height, or bend your knees a little bit more. Bring your right hand to your hip, and then really press down from your hips to your feet and lengthen out through the crown of your head. Take a breath in. And then with your exhale, twist to your right. Right, you can keep your hand to your hip or reach your arm up. See what feels like a better place as we still are just beginning practice. And keep the firm connection of your legs. Give them a little hug into center. And then roll your right ribs up towards the ceiling. And draw your right shoulder blade firmly onto your back. Good. Inhale, unwind. Exhale, fold. Lift halfway, inhale. And then switch sides. So right hand, right, either down to your mat or to a block, and your left hand to your hip. And then as you press into your feet, lengthen out through the crown of your head. So you get that dual action of root and expand. Then with your exhale, twist to your left. Right, and if it feels like the left hip wants to shorten way up, just encourage the hip back. Hand to hip or reach your arm up. And with strong legs, then roll your left ribs up. Hug your left shoulder blade in towards your spine. And just check in with where your breath is. Good. Inhale, unwind. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stand all the way up, reach your arms up. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Float up, inhale. Fold forward, exhale. Lift halfway, take a full breath in. And then exhale, fold, plant your hands down to the mat. Step back to high plank. And you can always bring knees down here for a little bit more support. Take a full breath in, root through your fingertips. And then exhale with bent knees or straight legs, lower all the way down. Good. Untuck your toes. Inhale, lift up through your head, chest, and shoulder, cobra pose. Exhale, lower down. Stretch back, downward facing dog. Let's give yourself a few breaths here in your first down dog. Once again, legs might be straight or bent. Anchor your heels towards the ground. They may touch, they may not. And at the same time, lift your kneecaps up towards your thighs, strong legs. Take a peek at your hands. Are your fingers spread wide, right? Fanned out on your mat. And then press down through all your fingertips. Good. Anchor your hands down, press them forward as you lift your hips high. Full breath in. Full breath out. Inhale, reach your left leg up and back. Keep it straight and strong. Exhale, step your foot all the way through. And if it helps to grab your ankle, help it along, do that. Bring your hands to frame your front foot. You can have hands to mat. You could do hands to blocks if you want a little bit more height there. And then stay. All right. Great thing we can do with the time we have in the pose is to align it. Right? So we work to hug the legs into center. And then take a long enough stance front to back, stirrup on the ball of your back foot. And then as you press into the ball of the back foot, can the back leg feel a little stronger? Check to see that your front knee is stacked over the ankle or a little bit behind. We just don't want it to come forward. Right? This is great to check in all of our bent knee standing poses. And just give a little squeeze of your outer left hip in and under. A little lift and tone with your low belly. And stay long through the crown of your head. Right. First one with some support of hands down, but maybe already feeling that in the legs. Take one more breath in. And then as you exhale, pivot your feet to the long end of your mat and fold forward. Right? Wide-legged forward fold. Take a moment to parallel your feet. Point your toes straight forward, well, towards the long end of the mat, so the outer edges of your feet line up with the front and back of your mat. Make your legs strong and steady. And then with your inhale, lift and lengthen halfway. So take another twist here. Right, so start by pressing down to your feet and zipping up through your kneecaps. And then take your right hand over towards your left leg. And you might grab ankle or shin or even thigh. And walk your left hand forward. Right, and then you can start to twist and look out underneath your left arm. Right, so often something that happens in this pose is that now the right hip just wants to sway in with you with the twist. Can you resist the inner right thigh back out to the side so it feels like the hips are level and the twist is really working through the ribs and the shoulders? Can you find a full breath here even in the twist? Sometimes that compresses the breath. And next, inhale, come back to center. And then go ahead, switch sides. So left hand over to the right. And then go ahead, just walk your right hand forward. Grab a hold wherever it works on your right leg. And then just start to twist and roll up underneath your right arm. Right, so again, think about it as rolling the right ribs up, left ribs down. Right, I know in my body that wants to send all the weight back into my heels. Can you shift a little bit of the weight forward? Good, with strong legs. Steady your breath. And inhale, come back to center. And this time with your exhale, walk your hands to the back of your mat. And so turn your right toes forward, come up on the ball of your back foot. So you're in that low lunge to the back of the mat. You could grab blocks again here if that feels supportive. Fingertips, sometimes even fists if the wrists like that better. Good. Give a little squeeze of your inner legs in. Press into the ball of the back foot. And then even roll your left inner thigh up a little bit more as you coil your right sitting bone in and under, right? So really what we're trying to do is just not keep the hip from swaying way out to the side. A little support through your belly, right? Even though it's touching the thigh, so it's not just leaning there. And then lengthen the crown of your head forward. Right? And as we work through some of these longer holds today, just inviting, right, that awareness of where do you feel sensation? Where is enough? Right? So where is the challenge and the change and the transformation happening? And where is too much? Right? Where is your body asking you to stop, to come out of the pose, or to shift the position? And sometimes that's a really fine line. We learn by listening closely to our bodies. Okay, plant your hands, step back, down dog. Inhale, slide forward, high plank pose. Exhale, lower all the way down. Good, cobra pose, inhale. So with the tops of your feet down, lift up through head, chest, shoulders. You might stay pretty low. That could be a good place for your back. You might come up a little bit higher, just depends on you. Press down into the heels of your hands and then traction the heels of your hands back to open your chest. Full breath in. And then exhale, lower all the way down. Stretch back, downward facing dog. Good. Take a full breath. Inhale, reach your right leg up and back, straight and strong. Exhale, step all the way through. Good. This time, turn your back heel down so you get that heel to heel alignment. Inhale, come all the way up, warrior two. And then just set up a nice long stance. So again, knee over ankle or just behind. Back heel turned back just slightly. And then go ahead, interlace your hands behind your back, right? So you're gonna take that clasp of the hands, root down through your feet, lift up through your chest, take a full breath in. And then exhale, humble warrior. Start to bring your right shoulder, right, inside your right knee. It might get there, it might not quite get all the way there. Let your head get heavy. You can keep your thumbs to your sacrum or reach your knuckles up. Right, here's a really good place of listening to your body. If it gets like, nope, this doesn't work for my body, you bring your hands down for a little bit more support. It's a great variation. If it feels okay to start with, to keep the interlace, do that. Okay, give a little squeeze of your heels to center. All right, and then just like you did in the lunge, can you curl the right sitting bone in? It's going to want to sway out here. And that's asking for a lot of strength. We're building that heat, that stability in the outer hip. And then really press into your feet, feel that firm foundation. Stay heavy through the upper body. Take a couple breaths. Where do you feel sensation? Where's the heat happening? And where the heat happens, where is the transformation, the shift happening? And with your next exhale, release your hands. And again, walk to the long end of your mat. So you're in that wide-legged forward fold. Parallel your feet. And then let your upper body get heavy. This time, go ahead, interlace your hands behind your neck. So it feels like that pad at your pinky, right, hooks right underneath that bony part of the skull, the occipital ridge. Sometimes you can give a little squeeze of the heels of your hands on your neck, nice massage. But point your elbows back towards the wall behind you and just let that weight of your hands create a little traction through your head, through your neck. As you do that, can you keep the legs strong? And just notice what your breath is like here. Right, so we know the more we challenge the body and build that heat, sometimes the breath changes. But can you let that be your guide? Okay, release your hands, bring them to your hips. With strong legs, inhale, come all the way up. And then turn your toes out, heels in, bend your knees to squat, goddess. So you may have to change a little bit the width of the stance. I like to try and get knees over ankles here, and then knees tracking down the center of the feet. So determine how far in or out you turn your feet. Go bring your hands together at your heart and sit low down into your hips. Squeeze your heels towards one another, right? Like you could pull the mat to center, but don't let it go anywhere. And at the same time, press back down into the feet. Keep your chest lifted. And then again, notice your breath here. So when I say breath as the guide, right, if it gets really hard to breathe and the breath becomes ragged, that's usually your body's way of telling you it's too much. Sometimes our mind is like, nope, I can stay with this, right? The heat, the shift, the transformation is good, but your breath is saying no. Listen to what your breath is saying. Take another full breath here. Where's the heat happening? Okay, with your inhale, press into your heels, come all the way up. And then turn your left toes forward. Slide your right heel all the way towards the back. So you're going to set up those warrior two legs to the front. And if you need to shift where the feet are, right, find what feels stable. Interlace your hands again with the opposite finger on top, the one that feels a little bit weird. Try and keep a little bend in your elbows here and work the heels of your hands towards one another. Take a breath in, stretch down with your knuckles, lift up with your chest, and then exhale, fold left shoulder to or towards or inside left knee. Right, thumbs to your sacrum, knuckles up towards the ceiling, right? Or great variation here, hands to the mat, right? Sometimes our bodies have injuries, we're recovering, we need some support somewhere. Take what your body needs, right? I always think that honoring that, what our body needs, is the best thing that we can do for ourselves. Okay, find your stability here as you hug your heels in. And think strong at the outer left hip, in and under. Heavy through your head. Stay rooted through your feet. Right, so it's almost like this rebound. The more you press down into your feet, you're getting that little bit of lift, so it doesn't feel like we're just dumping the weight into the legs. We're giving them that strength and support. You may notice you feel things differently side to side. Normal, we're usually not in balance one side to the other. Take another breath. And then with your next exhale, plant your hands, lift your back heel and take a big step forward all the way to the front of your mat. Inhale, lift and lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Good. Stand tall. Take a full round of breath. Feel that place where the breath feels steady and supportive so that you know you always have that to come back to. Okay, next inhale, both arms up. Exhale, fold. Lift halfway, inhale. Fold, exhale, plant your hands, step back, high plank. All right, this time we're gonna hold for a few breaths. So again, you can always bring knees down for a little bit more support. Honor where your body's at today. But go ahead and stack your shoulders right over your wrists. Again, spread wide through your fingers and grip with all 10 fingertips. You press down from your shoulders into your hands and lift through your low belly so you have a lot of support there. Good. Take another full breath in. And then with your exhale, come to your forearms, forearm plank. Right, so now elbows come under shoulders. Again, you can always bring knees down. Right, parallel through your forearms and your hands. And keep the crown of your head lengthening forward. Our chin tends to drop when things get challenging. Listen to where your breath is. And I can always tell mine when I'm doing something harder and trying to talk at the same time. Take another full breath in. And then with your exhale, just soften your hips down to the mat. Untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet down. So we're in Sphinx pose. Press down into your forearms. And then go ahead, traction your elbows back towards your hips. Lift your chest. And just notice if it feels like shoulders are crunched up into ears, where can you create that length along the sides of your neck? Full breath in. And then exhale, lower all the way down. Stretch back, downward facing dog. Take a couple breaths here. Set what feels steady and stable. Right? And if child's pose feels like a good option at any point, right? Always feel free to take that for a couple breaths. And next, inhale, reach your left leg up and back. Exhale, step all the way through. Again, feel free to grab the ankle, help it along. Turn and plant your back heel. And then again, come on up, warrior two. Right, check your stance. Right, so long enough that your knee is above or behind the front foot, right? Kind of a stickler on that one. It's just really good for the health of our knee that we're not putting a lot of weight and strain on the knee as it comes forward. Bring your arms out wide. Strengthen your legs as you squeeze them in. And then press down from your hips to your feet. Find that connection. Good. Feel your right ribs come back a little bit so it feels more like shoulders and ribs square the long end of your mat, but take your gaze forward over your front fingertips. And inhale, straighten your front leg. Exhale, hinge forward, come down, triangle. I love to use a block and triangle. You might like that. You might like hand to your shin. If your hand can reach the mat without caving in your upper body, great, do that. And then keep that same strength of the legs into the midline and the root of your feet. And then here in triangle, roll your right ribs up, and just like we did in the twist before. But soften your left ribs, your bottom ribs, down towards the front thigh. Good. Can you think about rolling your left, your front leg, your left inner thigh up? It's not going to move much, likely, but just feel what it might do for the hip. Good. How does your breath feel? What do you feel? What do you notice in the pose as you stay? Right. Sometimes that's what shifts with time. Right, when our mind is ready to get out, but our bodies stay. Okay, bring your hand to your hip, look down at your front foot. We're going to come half moon, so if you want to bring your block with you for a little bit more height, great. Take your left hand forward, walk your right foot in, and then reach your right leg up and roll your outer right hip open. Right, walk your left hand, your bottom hand far enough forward so it's under your shoulder. Might just help with stability. We'll take anything that helps with stability and balance poses. Root down into your left foot. Keep your right foot flexed, so it's like you're curling your toes up towards your head. And then roll right hip open, right ribs up. You can keep your hand to your hip or reach your arm up. Right? You have that option in a lot of poses. Sometimes we want that little extra stability of the hand there. Sometimes it feels nice to expand. Right? So from that root of your left foot, can you open the pose out a little bit wider? So it feels like you're stretching out, kind of like a starfish through arms and legs. What happens to balance as we ask the body to stay? Or can you take your gaze to help with that focus point with the balance? Good, another full breath in. And with your exhale, bring your hand to your hip, hug your outer hips in, and then turn your right hip down. Bring both feet down to the mat, standing forward fold. Nice work. Inhale, lift and lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stand all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Take a full breath. Right. Notice where you're building heat in the body. Right. Maybe a little heat in the mind. Right. Just from staying, not moving fast, not forcing anything, just asking the muscles to stay, asking the body to create those little shifts along the way. Okay, inhale, both arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Lift halfway, take a breath in. Exhale, fold. Step your left foot back, and then turn and plant your back heel. Right. Inhale, come all the way up, warrior two, to the second side. Make those little adjustments to your stance. What feels strong and steady, but also wide enough side to side or front to back to give yourself some space. Right. Squeeze your heels in towards center. Invite the left ribs back a little, but take your gaze forward. I know sometimes my tendency here is for the shoulders to creep up in the ears. Can you let the shoulders soften away from the ears and even pull the shoulder blades back? Good. Where do you feel the heat, the shift on this side? I think it's also interesting to notice is, when does our mind say we're ready to get out of the pose? When does our body say we're ready to get out of the pose? And then what happens when you stay? Okay, with your next inhale, straighten your front leg. With your exhale, hinge your upper body forward, so find that length, and then come down triangle. Again, if you want a little bit of support, grab that. Keep that strong stance and the hugging of your legs into midline. And then roll your left ribs up and soften your right ribs down. And as you do that, does it lengthen that side body at all? Extend the crown of your head forward. And roll your inner right thigh up. Does that create any shift in the outer hip? Take a couple breaths. I think one of my favorite sayings in yoga is that the pose begins when we're ready to leave it. The pose begins when we're ready to leave it. And bring your hand to your hip, look down, right? And then step your back foot in, walk your right hand forward, lift your back leg up, and then roll the left hip open. Root down into your right foot, and then again, hand to hip, or reach your arm up. What feels like the right variation on this side. Right, and I'll tell you, sometimes taking your gaze down is a little bit more helpful for balance. If you want to challenge the balance, look towards the side wall or even up towards the ceiling. And then see if you can find that expansion, right? Think like starfish, spread out wide from the root of your right foot. Right, that change, that transformation often starts when we're ready to leave the pose. When we get a little shake in the muscles. When our mind is saying we're done. right? As we come to that place that's challenging, right? Challenging but safe, not painful. What changes in our body, in our response to the pose? We just notice. And take another full breath in. And with your exhale, hand to your hip. Hug your outer hips into center, right? And then roll the hip down. Bring both feet down to your mat. Good. Inhale, lift and lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come all the way back up. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Again, take a full breath or two. And it's nice also just let your breath come back to that steady pace. Inhale, sweep both arms up. Exhale, hinge, fold forward. Lift halfway, take your breath in. Exhale, fold, hands down, step back, high plank. Okay, full breath in, high plank. And then exhale, forearm plank. Elbows under shoulders, forearms parallel. See if you can feel where your hips are in line with your shoulders here, right? Sometimes the tendency is for them to either sag down or lift up a little bit higher. Where's that place right at center? Keep that zip up of your low belly for support. And press into the balls of your feet to make your legs strong. Let them do some of the work here. Inhale, come back up, high plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take a breath. Inhale, reach your left leg up and back. Exhale, step all the way through. Good. This time, shorten your stance a little bit. So you want to get your back heel down. Turn your right toes out just an inch or two to the right. So warrior two legs. Inhale, come up. Start with your hands on your hips. And then just check with your feet. So it's nice here to have your feet more like you're walking on a railroad track as opposed to a tightrope, right? There's a little space. Back heels down but firmly connected. Check on your front knee. And then invite the outer left hip back. You can stay here with hands to hips or reach both arms up. Interlace your fingers and release your index fingers. Right? And arms might be straight there or they might have a little bend. Root through your feet. Hug your legs into center. And then roll your right inner thigh back towards the back of your mat. Good. Find a little lift through your belly as you lengthen down through your tailbone. And then if your arms are lifted, reach up and start to take your arms back just a little bit. See if you can find just a little bit of back bend. Right, for some of us that might be just a hair. For some of you might lean back a little bit more. Listen to your body. Find a steady gaze point. Check in with your breath and where you feel the pose. And with your next inhale, straighten your front leg. And then exhale, fold forward, pyramid. And you may even need a little adjustment in your feet. Sometimes I like to step the back foot in a hair for pyramid. Everyone's different. And just think about where you can keep your back heel connected. You might even grab blocks here. With strong legs, let your upper body get soft. Upper body get soft for a moment. Right, so you let that traction of the head and neck create a little length in the spine. And a little counter pose to the back bend. Next, inhale, lift halfway. And then I like to use a block here often for revolved triangle. If you like that too, you can grab it. So walk your right hand over, bring your left hand to your hip. And you can either have your right hand inside or outside your front foot. See what works best for you. Right, keep the legs hugging in. With your left hand to your hip, right, encourage the hip back as you lengthen the crown of your head forward. And then twist left. See if you can stay rooted through your back heel. If that's lifting way up, shorten your stance a little bit, step in. Roll your left ribs up. And then, like we've been doing, either keep hand to hip or reach up. Right. Draw your shoulder blade, your left shoulder blade in towards your spine. And keep the outer left hip drawing back, in and under. Steady breath. Right, that sign of shaking is often too a great release within the muscle tissue. Right, so if there's no pain, great, stay with it. If you need to come out, come out. Right, where is that fine balance in your body of staying long enough to create the heat and the shift and the transformation that we want without causing pain, without causing injury? This is deep listening to our own bodies. Okay, inhale, unwind. With your exhale, step your right foot forward. Step your left foot back. So just switch from here. So again, back heel connected. Start with your hands to your hips. Inhale, come up. Exhale, bend your front knee. Okay, so feet a little bit wider. Get that stable stance. Left heel down. Left toes turned out to the left just an inch or two. And then either keep hands to hips or reach your arms up. Interlace your hands opposite clasp. Reach your fingertips up. Right, see if you can work the heels of your hands towards one another. And even if the arms have a little bend in them, I know sometimes that's better for my shoulders, keep them strong, like you're hugging them in by your ears. Okay, think about that work we've been doing to strengthen the legs into center. Root through your back heel. And roll your inner left thigh back. I think towards the back of your mat. Lift up through your belly and lengthen down through your tailbone. And then lengthen from your sternum up. You can take the upper arms back and maybe start to lean back just a little bit. Sometimes too, the pinky side of my hand wants to flare apart. Can you work them towards one another? Right, you may take your gaze forward. You might lift it up a little. Just try to avoid throwing the head back, right? So that it's not just this back bend with the head, but the head and neck feel really supported. Take a couple more breaths. Right, always interesting to notice what the mind does when we ask the body to just stay. Next, inhale, straighten the leg. Exhale, release your hands. Take a few moments in the forward fold. Grab blocks if you want a little bit more support. You might even shorten the stance just a hair if that works better for you. Make your adjustments as needed. And with your next inhale again, lift your spine halfway. Bring your right hand to your hip and then walk your left hand across. So inside or outside, hand to block or hand to mat. Right. Draw the outer right hip back, lengthen the crown of your head forward. And then roll your ribs up. Hand to hip or reach your arm up. Good, really stay rooted through the back heel. Step in if you need a firmer connection. Hug your right shoulder blade in. Right, your gaze can be towards the side wall. You can even look up towards your hand if that feels okay for your neck. And keep the squeezing into center so there's stability in the twist. Smooth your breath. The pose begins when we want to leave it. Good. Inhale, unwind. Nice. Plant your hands. Step back, exhale, down dog. Take a couple of breaths. And with your next inhale, lift up high onto your toes. As you exhale, bend your knees, look forward. We're going to come through all the way to a seat so you can walk, hop, waddle, and come all the way down. Okay. From your seat, keep your knees bent, feet to the mat. And then just lift your chest up. All right, Navasana. You're going to lift shins to your mat. And you can start with your hands behind your thighs. Sometimes that is a great place to even stay for support. Flex your feet. And notice if as you lifted your legs, your upper body wanted to tilt back. Can you keep your chest lifting? And then you can stay with hands here or reach your arms out in front with your palms up. And you can stay here or straighten your legs. Right. Chest up, gaze towards your feet. Keep your inner legs strong. And breathe. With a little shaking, things move and shift and release. One more full breath in. And then exhale, come down. If you have a blanket and you like a little bit of support to sit on, grab that. Stretch your legs long out in front. Find your sitting bones and sit just right on the edge of that support if you have it. Flex your feet. Inhale, reach both arms up. And then exhale, long spine, reach, reach, reach forward. And when you hit that stopping point, bring your hands down. That might be here. That might be here. It might be anywhere in between. Right, keep your toes curling back. Roll the inner thighs down. And curl your pinky toes, especially back towards your head. At the same time, lengthen the crown of your head up and or forward towards your toes, depending on where you've landed. See if you can start to slow down your breath. You might even soften your gaze or close your eyes again. And just notice what's happening in your body. Where does it feel like some heat has built up? Where does there feel some shift, some change? Sometimes with mindset, especially in practices that might be a little more challenging, right? Not necessarily like we're doing handstand and arm balances, but sometimes just holding longer is really challenging in a different way. Sometimes our mindset takes a little time to shift, right? Like there's other emotions that come up before things settle, and that's normal. Sometimes it just helps to clear the cobwebs. Such a big part of our practice is just noticing our body, noticing our breath, noticing where our mind goes. Right? Simple, but not always easy. Noticing what happens when we stay in a forward fold for a little extra long amount of time. Give it just a couple more breaths. And then help yourself back up. Slide off of your support. Come all the way down onto your back. Once you get there, hug your knees into your chest. And then your choice, you can just take a little rock side to side and make some circles with your knees. That might feel good. All right. If happy baby, reaching down, taking hold of the outer edges of your feet sounds like a good choice, do that. Wherever you're at, just take 2 more full breaths. And then release your feet one more time. Give your thighs a squeeze in, curl your forehead up to your knees, take a full breath in. And then exhale, release, Shavasana, final resting pose. Any support under your knees, slide that. You want a different variation in your legs. Set up what feels restful just for these last couple of moments. Soften your eyes. And just let go of any effort now with your breath. Allow your body to settle in. Enjoy the rest. If you have longer to stay and you want to rest, please do. If you're ready to come out, go ahead, take a full stretch, reach your arms up. And as you exhale, draw your knees towards your chest, roll to your side. Come all the way back up. Bring your hands together at your heart. And sit tall. Thank you so much for taking the time to share the practice. Namaste.